Hello friends, my name is RagePanda1 and we've got a great set of mages to talk about today. So if you've been waiting to find out whether or not you should summon the Acuna clan, then sit tight and strap in and let's get into the video. We're going to talk about the male first, and the reason is because the male does what everybody likes. He does a lot of damage and you're going to want to make him because he does a lot of damage. And everybody's going to tell you when you ask, should I make the male or the female? They're going to say you should make the male. And why are they going to say that? It's because he does a lot of damage, that's why. But he does more than that. His active ability creates an icy zone in the direction of the current enemy, and that lasts for 5 seconds. It appears to work about like a line attack with a little extra width than you're used to, and enemies that stand in that zone will take damage per second, which adds up to a considerable number. More importantly, if people were paying attention to the actual abilities that are available to them in this game, is that anti-heal is available, and more people should be running healing and sustain comps, because the stuff that we have available in the game right now to enable that to happen is extremely strong. Think of things like female Galabar, for instance. Now you've even got DPS champions like the male Spider that can do the trick, and we're going to be talking about the female Acuna soon, which is absolutely insane, the kind of sustain that she can provide. So getting in some healing reduction with this skill can be a very strong thing. If enemies stay in the zone for longer than 3 seconds, then you get a little crowd control out of it too, and that never hurts. It even goes through crowd control immunity, which that sucks. Why break a system that works a certain way? I don't know why they did that, but I guess it's good. It's not bad, but I'm not sure it's good for the game. Allies within this zone will also get healed, and if they stay in it long enough, it will reduce their chance to get critically struck. So you're actually getting relatively decent sustain out of this guy, as well as a ton of damage, and even some crowd control to be thrown in. If that wasn't enough, you've got anti-heal. The guy is really, really good. His ultimate transforms him into an Ice Phoenix, dealing damage to all enemies, equal to 650% of the caster's strength, which is not the most we've ever seen, but it is pretty strong and it hits everybody on the map, so nothing wrong with that. It also inflicts an Arctic domain on the battlefield for 7 seconds, and during that period, enemies will be frozen for 2 seconds when they cast an active skill, and there is also a 15% chance for them to be frozen when they use normal attacks. The freezing effect ignores controlled immunity. Now, I was having a debate in my Discord yesterday talking about the female deer person and how people seem to like her. I don't think she's very good. Maybe I'll go into detail in a video on why. She's even worse if this guy is on the enemy team. If you're going to get crowd controlled for 2 seconds every time you do your active skill, and both your ultimate and your passive skill are making you do your active skill more, then it's even less good. But I'll focus on why I don't think she's my favorite. I'm not saying she's garbage, by the way. I'm just saying she's not my favorite. I'll focus on that in a different video. So some people might not appreciate the utility that's involved with this skill happening. I think it's going to be really good. Anytime you can stun an entire team, you're doing really good things for your team. And what I think people are going to think is a little better than it is his passive skill. Again, I'm not saying it's garbage, I'm not saying it doesn't do anything, but having it wait and only do it every 9 seconds is not super good. What it will do is cast an Icy Ward upon the weakest allied champion. This lasts for 3 seconds, and it reduces their damage taken from ultimate attacks by 35%. And it recovers Constitution by 5% of their max Constitution per second, for a total of 15%. That's important because it says max Constitution. That's what actually makes it somewhat good. It's just a 15% heal that happens to work out pretty well. Now, if that goes onto the female Acuna when she stacked up her shields and doubled her health a couple of times, you got yourselves a big heal on that one. Icy Ward cannot be removed, and if it's cast during the ultimate of the male Acuna, then he gains a bunch of energy back. So the passive is good. Everything that it does is good. What's not good is the timing. It says once per 9 seconds. Now, if it waits 9 seconds to do that, and then you're getting your damage reduction to ultimates after 9 seconds, most people have already done a set of ultimates by then. That's not going to be the most helpful thing. It's possible you'll be catching some, and if you do, it'll be useful. I just think that there's a lot of ways that this passive could have been better. So don't think that I'm saying it's garbage. Everybody, if I say a negative thing, everybody thinks I'm saying it's garbage and it's terrible and we hate it. That's not true. I'm saying I think it could be better. All in all here, if you look at his actual health and his damage numbers, they're solid, very solid, and all of his percentages for the scaling of his abilities are very solid. You're getting sustain, you're getting damage, you're getting anti-heal, you're getting crowd control on an entire team. This guy is absolutely very good. Very good, and I think that you should summon for that alone. People are not wrong when they say that he's quote-unquote the better one. He's very easy to use. That's what makes him better. You just put him on the team and he does great things. So how are you going to make the most of him? Well, of course, you're going to need to have some traits to go along with it. Now, we do have some healing built into this kit that scales off of our strength, so we want to make sure that we're avoiding fierce if we can, because that is going to increase our damage after the fact. We can squeeze out more healing if we do it right. Because of that, we want to have brutal and aggressive. And since we're going for brutal and aggressive, Steadfast could be a good option after that. However, before I took Steadfast, I would probably take Honorable, and the reason is because we are a character that's healing. He's going to be standing in his own zone anyway because he's the one putting it down. And generally, when you have some healing going on, Honorable becomes better than Energetic. So you could do Honorable and Steadfast if you wanted to, or you could avoid Steadfast and go for Fierce if you just want to do more damage. Now for the female Acuna, the one that everybody's going to overlook because I don't know why. If they don't do huge damage, people just don't get excited. I don't know why. I don't know why. Sustain is very good in this game. You will beat better teams if you can sustain their damage and whittle them down than if you just blow them up before you die and hope for the best. If you've seen my short that I made on this character, then you'll know that I think that her passive is extremely strong. Every time she does an ability or a normal attack, she's going to turn 25% of her constitution into a shield. When that amount matches her total health bar, then it's going to be converted into her health bar and double that health bar, making it extraordinarily huge and increasing the size of the shields that you're creating every time you do all of your attacks and your skills and all of that good stuff. Now, what I didn't have time to mention in the YouTube short was that after you get converted on that health bar and you double your health, it's going to put you into Pyro Plume status for 10 seconds, and that's going to enhance your skills, and your normal attacks are going to do additional damage equal to 8% of the current Permafrost shield's health. 8% doesn't sound like a lot, but you've already doubled your health once. So that's actually 16% of your normal health that is going to be added to each attack, and that's only after one time of converting that extra health. If you do it again, then it's going to be doubled again, and 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So now it's 32% of your base health that you would be hitting for each attack. Are you going to get to that point in every single game that you play? Probably not. Is it going to stack as fast as we might hope it does? I'm not sure. It might just stack on base health. I've used her considerably, but it's hard to keep track of all that stuff in the middle of combat, as I'm sure you know. But even if this scales in the worst possible way that they could have programmed it, it's still going to be extremely strong, and she will end up doing a considerable amount of damage as the battle goes on, which might make her extremely good in boss fights. Her ultimate then is going to give that shield to 2 other units, and the shields that you pass on will match the strength of your current shield to a minimum of 20% of your max constitution. Keep in mind that your max constitution is continually scaling and doubling and getting enormous. So that 20% could eventually be an entire extra health bar to somebody, and they're probably going to get even more shield than that. Now, the ultimate shields are even stronger than the passive shield because they're going to activate 25% reflected damage. So you've got a double-sized health bar worth of a shield, and 25% of it is reflecting damage back at people. You're going to make them half kill themselves before they even break the shield. And not only that, it's going to radiate damage to nearby enemies based on a percentage of the shield's current health per second. Per second. That's a lot. So what you're noticing here is this is a ramping character. So they start off, they're pretty good at the beginning, they're pretty effective, it's fine. But if the battle goes on for a long time, they are going to absolutely be dominant. So in all of these extra game modes where you have a big long timer and your person's on the field for a long time, this character is almost mandatory. So both of these characters are absolutely phenomenal, and that's why you need to summon on the Acuna banner. Her active skill is a 3-stage strike, which does a reasonable amount of damage. It's nothing crazy, except for the fact that 10% of your ultimate shields then get applied as damage to this attack. So that can add up to a pretty high number if you are playing your cards right, although your first active skill is going to be a little underwhelming. That's just the way this character works. Not as good in the beginning, extremely strong as time goes on. When you are in Pyro Plume status, after your shield has doubled your max health for the next 10 seconds, this active skill is going to trigger an explosion every time it hits, which remember is 3 times, and it's going to do the same damage as the strike, but to all the nearby enemies. And as we said before, that's going to start being a lot of damage as time goes on. In order to make the best of this character, I do think that agile and focused are essential. I think that energetic is essential, and it will always be picked over honorable, even when you have strong healing, and you should always have strong healing when you're playing with this character. She wants energetic to make the shields bigger. We don't care that much about honorable, although it is a fine fourth option if that's what you're into. I think because of the scaling of her damage, going for an aggressive or a brutal could be very strong in that last trait slot instead of going for defenses, since she's already providing so much of that. And since you're going to run her with healers, let's talk about the team comp. Now, nobody seems to be running a ton of healers right now, and we have so many options to be healing so strong, and I really think that people should be taking advantage of it. One thing that you could do is you could run both of the Acunas. You could run female Galabar, male Samir, and male Aeson. By doing this, you're going to get Devout on the team, which is going to increase all of the healing that you're doing. You're going to get the passive buff from the Aeson that's going to increase the strength of everybody, which is going to increase the healing that you're getting. You're going to have the female Galabar, which provides a bunch of stuns, which reduces the damage that you're taking, and provides a whole bunch of healing, which is being increased by all of these sources. Are you following along with why this is going to be fun? The male Samir is going to dive in, and you might think, well, that's a bit reckless, and usually it is, but we have a bunch of shields on the team to keep him alive, as well as, what's that? A lot of healing. But when he dives in, he's going to actually group up all of the enemies, which is going to be good for all of our attacks that are going to do explosive damage to those around them, or things that are going to leave patches on the ground that people don't want to stand in. And he's going to reduce the enemy's strength, which is going to increase our survivability. And the longer we increase our survivability, the higher the chances that this female Acuna is going to survive for a very long time and become an unstoppable monster. If you don't happen to like the male Acuna, that's fine. You don't have to use him. You could use something like the male Spider that also does some damage and healing. But the point of the team comp that I think sounds exciting is that everybody is providing some form of sustain to the team while we still have a huge amount of damage available, and we're crowd controlling and taking away the enemy team's power to do anything. That sounds real fun to me, and I wish I could make the team. If you're able to, then please send me the team at its utmost power doing the damnedest job it can to kill everybody. I want to watch it. So just a reminder, the male Acuna doesn't need that much of a specific team. You can just slot him in and he's going to do a good job. But if you build the team around the female Acuna to let her live her best life, you're going to really make a lot of people sad. They're just not going to be able to win. They just won't be able to. So if you want to catch more videos like this one, then I would highly recommend that you subscribe to the channel and maybe even hit the notification bell. For now, I want to thank you for watching. I have been Rage Panda 1, and I will see you in the next one.